Hello, everyone, and welcome to Game 1 in a series between CupCake and ToD here on, Shattered Temple. For a quick second, I thought it was Tol Dareem Altar. Really should take a look at the maps, but then again, yeah. Anyways, let's just go ahead and head straight into the game. ToD spawning as the blue Protoss player at the 12 o'clock position. Meanwhile, CupCake spawning as the green Terran player over here at the 6 o'clock position, and I'm not 100% sure where this game actually came from. This is the MLG version of the map, and I also know that MLG Orlando was over the weekend, but I'm pretty sure that all of the replays for MLG are pretty much restricted to in-house casters only, and I still haven't heard any word back from them yet. So that's one of the reasons why I can cast this game and get it up to you rather quickly. CupCake versus ToD here on Shattered Temple. Now, Terran versus Protoss, we'll figure out what exactly ToD tries to go for. Last time I cast a series of ToD games, he had really just played very well in Protoss versus Protoss mirror matches. Now, if you guys haven't heard who won MLG Orlando just quite yet, I'm not going to spoil it for you. Hopefully, you guys will be able to find out about it sooner or later, as CupCake now opening up with a 12 racks and delaying, for some strange reason, his SCV, and I believe that was a mistake. He delayed his SCV and now getting his gas. He could have continued building up that SCV just a little bit earlier. I gotta believe that was a mistake in terms of macro right there, just forgetting to pay attention to the game for just a split moment. And we'll see whether or not if it has any outcome on the game. Now, at this point, you're going to see barracks and a refinery here. Meanwhile, coming in from ToD, you are going to see a gateway assimilator. That second pylon has been warped in down over here as well. So it is going to be two pylons and then a cybernetics core. No crazy antics for early warp gate this time around, as another supply depot is being built by CupCake. A little bit more of a SimCity building off so that these supply depots prevent any zealots from being able to run in. If that's going to be the case, most likely another supply depot could be placed down over here, as you now see an SCV on the move from CupCake. Marine able to shoo away that one particular probe, and we are now adding on a tech lab, so we may be going into a Reaper expansion now, but we really don't know what CupCake wants to do until he scouts out his opponent. This is where having scouting information really makes a big difference. If all of a sudden you scout in and you see a whole bunch of energy on the Nexus, and you saw the stopping of the probe production, you would know that a 4-gate is incoming. So you do not want to try to expand into an opponent's 4-gate, as that would be absolutely deadly. SCV now coming around, pretty much taking a look, sees everything he needs to see, pretty much, and now another chrono boost onto the cybernetics core. It looks like it will get shaved down a couple more seconds, as another chrono boost most likely will be coming in as well. Zealot, I don't know, that looked like a little dress because of the little flower right behind there, but yeah, the Zealot sitting right there. We are going to be getting an additional gateway as well, and no robotics facility. So really curious as to what the strategy is going to be. As you can now see, apparently ToD does not like supply depot. Is going to go ahead and simply destroy that supply depot there. He wants to be able to do a more proper wall off, as he now also gets in a pylon over here, and then most likely will be trying to warp in a Nexus as well. You can now see CupCake. He has built his command center inside his base. ToD doesn't know about this, but he pretty much knows that there isn't going to be any crazy builds. He did see the standard barracks, but really, ToD is assuming that CupCake is going to play much more traditional and much more standard. A factory is being built in the center portion of the map, or the center portion of the base over here. Most likely may add a reactor and a starport, and I think CupCake's going to want to try to do some harassment with the Marauders and Marines with Stim while expanding. That tactic could work out very well, but I believe ToD is going into 3 gateways plus a robotics facility, and as long as he's constantly warping in units, he should be able to handle the Marauders and the Marine pressure with no real issue. There's the reactor that I was mentioning, starport now coming in from CupCake. There's the production tab, orbital command now being upgraded, as well as CupCake most likely will call in a mule, lift it off, and then begin moving down to this low ground with a couple Marauders and a couple Marines. There is Stalkers, Sentries, and Zealots over here as well. as we are also going into a robotics facility, training up an observer. Very important to get that early observer into play, as the Protoss normally has a lot of information and just is able to see whenever an army is about to move out. You can now see the starport has landed, and we are going into double training of medevacs as a factory now going to be used in order to try to do a bit of scouting as well. ToD already transferring his probes over with a 32 or 33 to 27 probe advantage, but CupCake does have mules, so that will give him a strong economic boost, as CupCake now waiting to finish up that stim pack. Most likely will add on another tech lab with a reactor and then start double training marauders and marines. An observer able to fly by and keep track of this marauder marine army, as 2 medevacs are now making their way out. So CupCake is timing this attack, 8-minute timing attack here, to try to see how much damage he can do. This may or may not work out well for him. CupCake does have stim, but he doesn't have combat shield, so those marines are going to be very fragile, and along with those marauders, marines are now backing up, trying to get into position here. There are zealots on the low ground and now trying to stim in along the backside, trying to get into a couple probes, now fighting back against just a large number of zealots, but a nice microing there. A couple of medevacs have been shot down. That is not good news. That medevac needs to pull back, and now able to finish off a little bit more. I believe the stalkers will be able to finish this off, and CupCake able to save his units. Taking a look at the total losses, pretty even in that engagement, but 37 probes versus 34 SCVs. I believe a couple workers were killed, only one. All right, so that was not nearly as effective as I thought it was be, but CupCake did keep his opponent honest, and now he also knows most likely that there is a robotics bay coming in. Based upon the scan, or based upon the high ground there, he knows that there is one robotics bay and knows to expect Colossi. Double training of Vikings now underway. Double Vikings always very, very important in order to deal with those Colossi. But then again, he most likely will also have to go for some Ghost in order to EMP Shockwave those High Templars and just remove the shields of the Colossi and Stalkers in general. Extended Thermal Lance range now being started. Range of 9 on a decently fast moving unit. Very, very powerful. The only downside is that it is extra tall and can get shot down by Vikings. Stalkers are now trying to push in. It looks like the medevacs may absorb a little bit of damage. One Marauder apparently sacrificing himself for the greater cause, making sure that the medevac was not destroyed. And now the Vikings on patrol here look to take down 1 or 2 Colossus. Both sides not ready to engage just quite yet. CupCake is with a rather small army, but same thing from ToD. Both sides have not really dealt that much damage to each other. ToD now looking to clean up these destructible rocks over here. Should be able to but pretty much be uninterrupted and then place another nexus up on that high ground. Meanwhile, CupCake has not established or started to develop his third base yet. There are still destructible rocks here and still destructible rocks here, and he has not started a command center that he could normally float into its location. ToD simply waiting and waiting. It looks as though we are going to be going into the Twilight Council, so Blink and High Templars may come into play, as I mentioned earlier, and he really needs to establish and get more gas if he really wants to go into heavy High Templar play, as he's already generally low on gas trying to train up Colossus. Vikings still being added to this group off of 2 starports now, one without a tech lab or a reactor, one with a reactor. So he normally CupCake may decide to add a tech lab later in order to get a Raven, which would be a very beneficial unit in order to spot and destroy all of these observers. We can see that there are currently 8 Vikings in the air, 9 Vikings in the air. A Marauder now rushing out into midfield. There is going to be a Stalker there. The Stalker is deciding to back off and retreat home. Taking a look at the army compositions, it is slightly higher for CupCake, as CupCake now making sure that there is nothing to scout out so far. No possible flanking maneuvers, as the Colossi now backing off, and now the Vikings trying to perhaps come in with the flank. One round of attack, and you can see how much damage is done, and that one Colossus has been destroyed already. All the Colossi are now too far behind, as the Vikings are pushing straight into the base. This is exactly what ToD doesn't want to do. Marauders versus gateway units, but in comes some very nice force fields, as the Vikings perhaps need to land land. The Marauders trying to fend off the attack here. Zealots, Sentries, and Stalkers, and now the Vikings going into ground mode, destroying ToD's mineral line. CupCake is just dealing a heavy blow here as the Stalkers and Sentries are now backing off once more. The Marauders need to wait for more medevacs to come into play, but I believe enough workers have been killed. It looks as though the Stalkers are going to be coming in. Is he going to be able to get down this Nexus? I do not think so. A very fast, high DPS units, but these Vikings now need to get the heck out of there. They have already dealt their damage as another Colossus now being added. Marauders now trying to snipe down this Nexus. One more shot. There it goes. And one Nexus has been destroyed. And this is looking very good, but I wish CupCake had taken the opportunity to at least start another command center. So yeah, didn't even start another command center. Apparently ToD couldn't even hear the attack in the main base with all the background noise going on. Marauders now getting stuck in the middle here as the Zealots, Stalkers, and Archons in the center trying to hold it off. We are going into a Mobius reactor, so we are going to be getting some ghosts in just a moment. And still, CupCake has dealt a heavy blow, but doesn't have that strong of an economic advantage yet. You can see that the factory is flying around over here. He does have 2 starports. He is building up another command center, but in a curious location. Being built over here, he might try to sneak in a Nexus along this side, as the Vikings are now doing a little bit of patrolling, as there is now an observer here, and ToD knows that he's not quite out of this game yet. His opponent did not capitalize on the fact that his CupCake has not capitalized on the fact that he did take an early victory, and now putting down an armory, and still has not gotten his additional command center. The command center actually is starting to float, but floating in and flying a very long way. This is not something I normally want to see, but at least he does have his third base at least up in the air, and it will be landing over here on the bottom right hand side in just a moment. Marauders and Marines, looks like an armory is going to be added. More Marauders going to just finish off these rocks over here. CupCake making it a little bit too tight. Needs to now upgrade the level 1 weapons and armor up, or level 2 weapons and armor upgrades, as an observer quickly shot down after a missile turret has been placed down as well. So command center now going to land off here, establish that all-important third base. Meanwhile, ToD also establishing his third base. So really bad play, not capitalizing. Perhaps CupCake now looking to push while he still has an advantage. 55 SCVs versus 46 probes. We are going to see Archons in this group, and now some High Templars. Do we see the Ghost in here? Yes, there are 4 Ghosts. The Ghosts do have enough for an EMP shockwave. The Mobius reactor was researched, so massive EMP shockwaves will be coming in. No Raven in this group, so this observer, even if it could spot the Ghost, is going to have a very difficult time. And feedback onto those, double snipe, and another feedback, and beautifully played by ToD. Now Ghost trying to push their way in, not going to be able to do all too much, and Ghost leading the way, not quite sure why, didn't have any energy for an EMP shockwave, as 2 more Ghosts now bring in the rear. Another EMP shockwave, you either get the High Templars, no, feedback back on the Ghost once more, and ToD playing this absolutely beautifully, as CupCake does not realize that there are observers in his group. Down goes this Colossus, but the Marauders and the Marines are now falling back, and CupCake has taken a very hard-fought victory here on Shattered Temple, as the Archon now continuing the chase after these medevacs. 1 Viking left over here. Another Marauder has been taken down, and I believe ToD is just going to clear out these rocks here and then perhaps try to establish up another base. It is still 59 Harvesters compared to 50, so a slight economic advantage by CupCake right now. He does also have a planetary fortress here. Okay, rather odd. Would have liked to have normally seen an orbital command here. This one base is a little bit more well protected, and orbital commands early on really help out in macro games, as mules do not cost any food whatsoever, and they mine so effectively. Zealot's gonna finish off these destructible rocks down over here. Archons, Sentries, Stalkers, High Templars, a very large army coming in from ToD. A slight army advantage, 144 compared to 121, and overall a slight a slight army advantage in terms of total cost, as now we are going into level 2 weapons upgrades. SCVs are being transferred over. The ghosts have to really be careful. They need a cloak or they need a raven in order to spot that one observer, so that the feedback does not start first. That's I guess the issue right now. The ghosts have not been able to get off those critical EMP shockwaves at all, and then now with Archons and so many High Templars able to get off so many feedbacks, they may not be able to either. Or taking a look back over here, Psystorm has been researched. So yes, Psystorm has been researched, and there is a lot of Archons in place, surprisingly enough, as a High Templar now making his way over to the gold mineral patch, perhaps to act as an anti-drop defense. ToD now establishing up his 4th base. Meanwhile, CupCake establishing up his, or now still running on his 3rd. Ghost now keeping track. ToD sees that there is still destructible rocks over here. Has to like the advantage that he currently has over his opponent, as the Marauders are upgraded 2-1, soon to be 2-2, but it's not going to really matter, as ToD's already upgraded 2-1 as well, and those Colossus are going to be able to cut through all of those units like a hot knife through butter. You can also see the Metavax, finally getting a scanner sweep off on his army, realizing that something is rather curious, but these Metavax also are low on hit points. I'm surprised that there is no repairing going on, especially when there is one SCV in this group, and the SCV could perhaps prevent a medevac from being destroyed by one feedback. Scanner sweeps now coming in. Let's see how this is all going to work. High Templars, 2 High Templars in this area location over here. Are we going to perhaps get a drop? Marauders and Marines now pushing in. Feedback onto a ghost. Another feedback onto a ghost. Yeah, there it is. Beautifully done. 2 ghosts completely destroyed. These ghosts over here are now going to engage. Where are the ghosts? There's an EMP shockwave. Finally, the EMP shockwaves are still coming in. A lot of those stalkers running out of shields, but no Vikings to finish off the Colossus. And that perhaps was a mistake. There's still Marauders and Marines back over here, as well as the Archons continue their pressure and their move forward. ToD has 1 Archon down to 18 hit points, but CupCake says GG, losing to ToD on Shattered Temple after taking an early battle victory, but unable to win the war. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.